I could tell you from experience. So when I was doing this stuff, so this is the soft version, because this was like the open door to other things, like
You're saying
channeling.
the secret's the soft version.
Yeah,
Right.
it was the gateway for me to getting into different things. I also got into like lucid dreaming, which is the gateway to astral travel, um, and astral projection and stuff like that. I stopped right when I realized that I had a spirit guide telling me that that was the next step, and I was like, oh no, I know this is not right.
Oh
So
wow. How did that
that's
manifest? The
this
spirit
all
guide.
leads up. I didn't realize I had one, because I didn't realize that this wasn't like this was like leading me there. So I was doing all this visualization stuff and trying to draw positivity to my life. I had a vision board. That's something that one of the guys in the video and the book talks about, having a vision board. It's like all the things you want, you put on this vision board and you imagine it in your mind. Um, I started researching lucid dreaming, um, which is you basically, it's the same concept. It's before you go to bed, you imagine that you want to have a lucid dream. So basically, you think, okay, I want to have a lucid dream. You're purposely calling this to yourself. You go to sleep, and then when you go to sleep, you're completely aware and in control of your dream. Um,
Did
so,
it work for you?
oh yeah, it does work.
Oh wow.
It does work. The problem is, it's not of God.
Which one?
So I had experiences in lucid dreaming, like it's one of those dreams that feels very real, and it feels like you're in the dream, but it's like the movie Inception, if you've ever seen
Oh
that.
yes. Yeah.
You're in a dream and you're acting out in the dream. Um, and I could basically, I know other people have done this where you have like flying dreams where you just do whatever the heck you want and it feels awesome when you're doing it. But they started to change as I kept doing it. I started having not all the dreams I could control. I had like really weird dreams where it started to get more grim and it started to get weird and it started to get dark and sexual. Like I actually had demons coming in my dreams to me, like trying to get on me. And I'm like, what is happening? What is
Incubus.
this? Um, yeah, it started getting, and then I started having like demonic visitations at night. Um, I had like demons trying to smother me in my sleep.
Were you recognizing at this point that maybe
I
doing
was
this
like, oh my
dreaming is
God.
against God? And were you
Oh
realizing,
yeah, I was realizing, and I completely, I at that point I didn't know what to do, um, because I would be like when I was experiencing those things, like it was like you experience like sleep paralysis sometimes,
right, right.
um, where there were times when I knew I wanted to call out to Jesus, but I couldn't get the words out. It's like being my voice was completely muffled, and I would have like I would be laying down and sleeping right on my pillow, and this is like it was happening in real life and in dreams. So I'm like this, and there's a demon right here in my face like this, and bothering me, and I'm like so, and it the spiritual atmosphere is so heavy, and you're so full of like crippling fear, crippling terror that I would try to say Jesus and I couldn't get the words out. And then one day I just like said, you know what, God, I know this is wrong. And, it was once I realized that I had a spirit guide in a dream one day that was telling me that I should sell my soul to the devil and he's going to give me everything I want. And if I do what he says. And I was like, oh my God, I got to stop doing this. So I
What's
basically, at that
interesting
point,
about this, Michelle, is that in trying to get control of your dreams,
I lost
you lost
control.
all control.
Hmm. I
Wow.
lost all control. Um, and I was being attacked by them. I had like woke up with scars and stuff, some scratches sometimes, even physical pain in parts of my body. Um, and I just like once I realized what I was doing was like, this is terrible. This is painfully obvious that this is not right. Um, I was like, okay, God, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Please help me. I said, if you please help me, if you get these creatures away from me, I will dedicate my life to you. I swear, like I'm begging.
Michelle, when I
And
interrupted you, because you were telling something really interesting when I interrupted, you were saying that in the one of the last dreams you had, there was a spirit guide there, someone in your dream that said, if you would sell your soul to the devil, what would happen?
he would give you everything you want.
Wow.
Everything I want. Um and I was like, oh no.
Did he say anything about Jesus to you? Like acknowledge
No,
Jesus or he was
no. But he wasn't scary. He wasn't scary. I had those things. I was having like polarizing different dreams and experiences. I was having good and I was having bad. Um, and that's when I realized they were all kind of actually the same.
Mm.
That was the moment when I realized that, oh, because I thought, I was like, why is this happening to me? But this is also happening to me. This is good, but this is bad. So, and then it clicked. I was like, oh my God, it's
There's
all
no
bad.
there's no white
There's
magic,
no,
black magic. It's all evil
it's
because
all
it's not
bad.
Jesus. Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, even though I was thinking about this last night, even though that darkness is light at the end of the day. It really is. It's the lesser light, but it's still light. So the day, he comes as an angel of light. So yeah, I was getting both of those. I think it was because I was playing in and out.
Was that did those dreams begin to happen once you graduated from The Secret to the Laws of Attraction, or was it
Um, It happened at one point. It started because at one point in my life, I had basically denounced God. And I noticed that's when the bad ones started to happen. I basically said, you know what, God, I'm trying all these things. Nothing's working. So I don't need you. And then once that happened, it was like, poof. It's like I gave permission to be attacked by all these entities.
you left
And
the estate of your father and you became prodigal, and then
mhm,
right, you ended up in
I
the pigsty?
basically, yep, you know what? I had protection before, even though I was unaware of what I was doing, like I wasn't doing it as much then, but once I did that, it was like, poof, I forsook God at that point in my life. People think that, oh God, he'll never leave you nor forsake you, but we can forsake him.
Yes, yes.
Um, and he wants us to be either hot or cold. And guess what? At that moment, he knew what I was, and I made it clear to him what I was, and he was like, "Okay,
But in
here
a
you go."
way, him letting you go into that world and seeing how dark it was is what brought you back. Because as long
Yeah,
as you didn't think there were
yes,
ramifications for your actions, you were going to keep
yeah.
doing it. He needed you to see what you were really dealing with. And boy, did you ever see it.
And boy, was I terrified, and I ran to him and I said, "Please help me," because it was terrifying. I was crippled in fear. I was terrified. I was like crying to my mother. I'm like, "Mom, I had this dream, blah blah blah," right? But she didn't know all the things I was doing though.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
so
Was she doing anybody doing spiritual warfare for you at that time, or did you guys even know what that meant?
no, no, my mom would pray for me, but she wasn't really aware of spiritual warfare at the time. Um, and not my brothers had no clue what was happening. I would tell them, but they didn't understand either. Um, so it was basically kind of my own journey. Um, and then once that happened, I was still reading these books, these Joel Osteen's and Joyce Meyer books and stuff.
Ah,
Um, so I didn't because I didn't see that was the same at the time. It took me a couple years to realize it. It wasn't until I want to say 2 years later that I realized that it was the same thing, the same concept. It wasn't until I actually got deliverance that I realized, and I
what
woke up.
was it about the laws of attraction? You told me before when we were offline, you were saying that the secret was kind of like the entry drug and the hardcore
Oh
drug was
yeah.
the law of attraction. What was so hardcore about it, and how did it intertwine with these other things that you were learning from Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, and T.D. Jakes?
Okay. So yeah, the law of attraction. It's basically channeling. Um, it starts out as channeling. Well, it starts out as a positive thoughts. The same thing as the secret all the thought process that go into that, the ideologies and all that. But it adds more things like channeling. So basically, it's like you are giving a entity permission to come inside your
Oh,
body, and what happens is you can do different things. You can do I forget what it's called, but there's like something that you allow the spirit to write through you.
oh, automatic writing.
Yes, you can
Right.
do that. You can have them speak through you, which I have done both before. Um, and that comes with a lot of problems. So basically, the Law of Attraction, the book, is it's written by a husband and wife, and the husband was very into a lot of religious stuff growing up, and eventually he felt like that wasn't enough. He was searching for something, but he just couldn't find what he was searching for, and he got caught up in reading a book that involved speaking to demonic spirits.
You were literally having seances and conducting, like you said, channeling. It was completely witchcraft.
Yeah, completely. And I was an idiot. I did
But
not know
but
what I was.
but
I
at
was like,
that
oh,
point, you still hadn't seen anything from Christianity that would indicate to you that you were going down a pathway that you shouldn't.
oh, because I kind of knew about a little bit about like divination and stuff, but I didn't. I think at that point I just didn't care.
Right, right.
Um, I was just like, whatever's gonna work. I was very desperate in that time of my life. I just wanted. I was searching for peace and trying to find peace in my life in all the avenues you should not go. Do not do any of these things because you're
What
gonna
were you? Were you trying to get
massive
a
delay.
husband? Were you trying to get wealth? What were you searching for through all
I
this?
wanted power. That was my thing. I wanted power, but I also wanted peace in my life because I grew up. My parents got divorced, and I was very angry about the divorce, and it was just very hard for me to accept change. We had no family to help us out or anything, so it was just me figuring it out. I was in my teenage years. I was, starting to rebel. I just wanted comfort, really. So
When you say power, though, what did you power over your situation, power over the people?
I wanted power to change my situation. Um,
Oh,
so
to
I
make your
just felt,
circumstances different. That's what you
yeah,
mean.
I
Right.
just felt like the way my life was with what my family and what we were going through, I had no control. So
Mm.
this allowed me to have a sense of control, like the illusion of power and control. Um, but
You know
no,
what's funny
it's
about that? This
not
is the
that.
generation of children of divorce, and it stands to reason they've been, Harry Potterized. They're going to turn to power to the occult. And even though
Yep.
you came out somewhat out of the church, even though they were practicing some probably witchcraft oriented stuff in that church, you still had an idea about God in the beginning. But this generation and all the divorces and the single parents, and it stands to reason that kids are going to feel like the rug's been ripped out from under them, and they're going to search for things to bring what you said, peace and better circumstances. And
Hmm.
we I don't know how old you are, but I'm 48 now, and I look at my generation, the kids in the early 20s now are they're so off the rails because we subjected them to constant divorce, and the parents of my generation did the same thing, and then the the way that children get a spirit of rejection out of that, and they
Yep.
get demonized through it because of fear. The spirit of fear comes on them, the spirit of
Hmm.
rejection, and then
Exactly.
out Jesus, they're going to turn to something to
Hmm.
fill that void, and to me it sounds like exactly what
Yeah,
happened to you.
that's basically why it was like, oh Jesus, this Jesus thing's not working. So like,
What's
let me
funny
try
is
this.
it is if you think of it like that's on the scale of what happens with divorce, but if you think about it on a macro level, that is on a
Hmm.
church-wide level, you can see that a powerless church that's not walking in the gifts, the real
Yep.
these signs will follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out demons, they shall speak in tongues, they shall lay hands on the sick, and the sick will recover. If those things aren't following, that vacuum of when you're not really serving the true and living God and obeying his commandments, that vacuum's going to be filled with something else because you're
Yes.
not serving God, And it stands to reason that supernatural powers and things like that are going to come into this false phony church, and the people in there are going to embrace it because
Yes.
they want what you said. They want more control over their circumstances, and that's why they follow a Joel Osteen or T.D. Jakes or a Joyce Meyer.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was for me, I was looking for that, and I was at this I was at that church for like 4 or 5 years. And I was looking for that positivity, I was looking for that encouragement. So I was there for a while. I was there for a while completely blind. But eventually I had an experience that completely changed everything, which is deliverance.
How did that happen?
So deliverance, it all correlates to my experience. I had a friend whose daughter was having similar situations with dreams. Like she would see spirits in the house, and they would bother her while she tried to go to bed. And I was like, oh my God, this happened to me. And I have a cousin that I know who knew how to do deliverance and stuff. And so I was
When you
like,
say
oh,
cousin, are we talking first cousin?
yes.
Did you grow up with him? Did you know him well?
He was the one who told me about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. When
Can
I
I
was a
interrupt? I want to ask
teenager.
one more question. Did you avoid him as when you were into all this stuff?
Um, I we I think when my family got divorced because he was on my dad's side of the family, my mom divorced my father, and once that happened, it was kind of a rift where majority of his family, that side of the family, did not talk to us or acknowledge us. So it wasn't just rejection from my father; it was rejection from my whole family. And so he was actually the only cousin that was completely unbiased in the whole situation. And
See that Holy Ghost.
he knew some of the stuff we were going through, but we weren't going to the same church. Actually, I didn't go to church for a while before I came to him and I said, hey, I know that you have experience doing this, because he would pray and he would talk about fasting, and he has done deliverance before because he had to do it on his wife when he met her at church. Um, so I knew the story, so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can go to him with this issue, because I didn't have experience casting out demons or anything like that before. But I was starting to read the Bible and I was starting to research it.
So what led you to read the Bible again?
When all that stuff happened and I had a little bit more peace again, when I wasn't being tormented, um, I started to read the Bible again, and I started to seek him again.
Were you
Um,
recognizing, hey, I went down the wrong road. I better read the
I
Bible now?
recognize that, but also at the same time, I still didn't understand a lot of things. I didn't understand spirituality. I didn't understand a lot of things. I didn't understand denying myself, taking my cross, and following him. At that point, I was still deluded.
Right.
But I did understand, and I did have enough faith well, it takes to make faith mustard speed. I did have enough faith to understand that I knew my cousin understood something that I didn't, and I was like, oh, let me tell my cousin about the situation and see what he can do to help. So I took my friend, her daughter, and my two brothers. We all went to my cousin's house, and we sat there and we were talking for hours. My cousin was talking to us about praying in the spirit, and praying against these things. And he talked a little bit about his experience fasting, and then he talked about how to protect us, and he was like praying a prayer over us. And as we're talking about demons and stuff, my younger brother, he started acting really weird. And it was like it was trying to hide itself. This is me looking back in retrospect, because at the time I was like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? You look really sleepy. You don't look right. His face, his whole countenance was like a zombie. It was weird. They were talking, and the whole time he was just like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I was just like, what is up with him? And eventually we got all that done. We said our prayers. He said, thank you for having us. We're going to go. We left. This is at nighttime. It was like maybe 9 or 10 at night. And we go into my car, and I drive literally a block down the street, and I have to stop because my brother is kicking, he's flailing, he's like punching my seat while I'm driving. He's acting out of control. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? He's flailing and he's kicking and he's hitting my car. Like I was worried about the little girl sitting next to him, my friend's daughter. And I was like, okay, we got to turn around. We got to go back. My brother, I asked him to call my cousin while I'm driving back. We pull into the driveway. And I tell everybody, get out the car, because I didn't want him to hurt anybody. So then I decided I was going to lock him in the car. And I locked him in the car, and he's just out of control. He's just flailing, punching my window, punching my car seat, and kicking and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, what do I do? God, what do I do? And instantly the first thought that came to mind was the demoniac. I think that's what they call him anyway. The man with the legion of demons. And when Jesus said, who are you? To him, and he said, we are legion, we are many, you know. And I was like, oh, I'll just let me see if I can just ask him. So I said, who are you? I'm all scared. Who are you? And the demon's like, ah! screaming, and like he's grabbing my car seat and rocking it back and forth like this. And I'm like, oh my God. And that was the instant moment where I was like, oh my God, Jesus is totally real, right? Because after that, he was still kicking and flailing, and I commanded him. I was like, okay, I know Jesus commanded demons to do stuff all the time. So I was like, okay, faith of a mustard seed. All right. Sit still in Jesus' name. And he just sits right up, calms right down, and sits still. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that Jesus is not real. There's no way that God is not real. The Bible is the truth. It was a complete like light bulb moment. Yeah. And I was like, this is awesome. Like because for so long I was so powerless. I was so powerless when it came to being attacked and tormented by these entities. And I was so scared, but in that moment I was like fired up. I was like, this is amazing. But anyway, so my cousin's wife takes my older brother and his friend, and they go in their car. I have my cousin come in the car with me, and my cousin, he we're driving and we're heading to my house, and while I'm driving, he's casting demons out of my little brother. Casted out spirit of lust, I think depression, suicide, and there was another, I can't remember. I think the spirit was witchcraft. I can't remember, because I remember him asking, how did you get inside of him? How did you, where did you come from? What gave you permission to be here and stuff like that? And the demon was just not cooperating. He was like refusing to talk. He didn't want to talk to him. He was like laughing at him the whole time. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna cast that demon out. I just know it. And this is me thinking in my head. I'm not saying these things out loud. I'm just experiencing this. I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. We get back home. My cousin tells my mom what happened, the whole story. He takes me into a separate room and we start talking about it. He's like, I can tell that, you're the only one that seemed to recognize this, and I think God's going to use you, in this way and stuff and I was like, okay. And he was kind of giving me advice and stuff like that. And eventually he went home. And everything was okay for a few days, maybe like 1 or 2 days. Then me and the same friend and my older brother were at another friend's house one day. And my brother, he still felt weird and unsettled after all that happened. It's like at that moment he could recognize that there was still work to be done, that there was still something inside. He just felt weird. He said he didn't feel like himself, was what he said. Now that I think back on it, he said, I don't feel right. I don't feel like myself. Can you come home? Can you help me? Blah blah blah. So we go back home. My brother and my friend, they go and they try to find another friend's mom who's a minister and try to see if she could get him to feel that she could cast these demons out of him, because we knew he still had a demon in him. So we're like, oh no. we're trying to find some people. I'm calling people on my phone. I'm calling my pastor. I'm leaving voicemails. I'm emailing anybody that I know that's a minister. I didn't get callbacks. I didn't get emails. Nobody contacted me back. And the thought, yep. And the thought came back to my mind, like, they're going to cast this demon out. And I'm like, okay. So it was me and my mom, because my mom, she wasn't there for the first experience, but she was there for this one. She's praying in the tongues and all that stuff. And I'm over here and I'm like, okay, just commanding the spirits to leave. I just command you to leave in Jesus' name. And he's throwing up on the floor. And I'm like, this is awesome. But I also thought, because my brother was like 14 or 15 at the time, and I was like, how is it that my brother, who's like the most innocent person I know, has all these demonic spirits in him? And specifically because we were taught growing up that a Christian person or a person who believes in God cannot have demons inside of them. So for me, it was like, doesn't make any sense, but he has them. My parents raised us to believe in God. We go to church. Why does he have all these demonic spirits inside of him and that he's suffering and stuff? And I thought about my own experience and what the stuff that I had done and what I was doing. And I was way worse than him. And I was like, what makes me think that I'm any better than he is? What makes me think that I'm cleaner than he is? Like I'm some kind of saint. And I was like, because I knew I wasn't. I knew what I had done. And I knew I had demons inside of me, but I was trying to psych myself out at the time. So it took me like maybe a week to convince myself to actually question enough to do anything about it.
Be sure to watch part 3 of this interview where Michelle discusses how God delivered her from these demons. Reach for